It's 107.7 The Bone, Baby Huey and Chasta here. And Chasta, look at this. When I told you about this man coming to the Bay Area, you gave me like the biggest, hell yeah, I want to talk to him ever.
I've been such a big fan of yours forever. We have big wave surfer, the best in the world, Laird Hamilton, in our studio, and I can't believe it.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
I'm a wannabe surfer, and I've admired you, my entire life. So I'm so excited. As I just mentioned before we started recording, I could talk to you for hours, I know already. I already got like a paddless lesson before we even hit record.
Amazed. Like, we should have just had that to start the interview right there. But listen, thank you so much for making the time today. So let's talk about why you're here in town. You got your brand new documentary, Take Every Wave, The Life of Laird Hamilton. So it's you're going to be doing a couple Q&As, screenings here in the Bay Area. So let's get all the plugs out of the way. So tonight, Friday, October 13th at the Embarcadero Center Cinema in San Francisco. It's at 7 o'clock. You're going to be doing a Q&A after the screening.
Yes.
And then on Saturday, October 14th, you're going to be at the Shattuck Cinema in Berkeley, my neck of the woods, at 4 p.m. And then also that night, you're going to be doing an intro at the Embarcadero Center Cinema in San Francisco again. That's going to be at 7 o'clock as well. So for tickets, more info, for all the screenings, you can just go to takeeverywave.com. So just want to say congrats, man.
Thank you.
You got this documentary about yourself. So
yeah. There's something kind of, I don't know, serendipitous about today. Today's would have been my mom's birthday, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, she's been gone for a long time, but it's just interesting because I was born in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then today's my mom's birthday, the 13th, Friday the 13th.
She's with us right now.
And then I'm having a movie about my life that she's in.
Wow.
In the theater, so.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
I'll try not to get choked up.
I know. I was just saying, I got chills.
Well, just even at the beginning of your documentary, I mean, yeah, as we said, it's about your entire life.
It is.
It starts here in the Bay Area in San Francisco. You were born out here.
Yeah.
So just for you, I mean, I don't know how often you come back to San Francisco, but I'm sure things here are a lot different than when you were first born out here.
Well, it's interesting. I always have a kind of unique sensation whenever I come here. My mom moved to Hawaii when I was a couple months old, so I was born at the university hospital, and they're doing some kind of free studies. It was the 60s, so I don't know what they did to me, but maybe they extracted or did something. But but whenever I come to San Francisco, I just kind of have I just have a comfort of being here. It's the place I was born, and I think we're connected to that no matter what, how long we're away, and I feel comfortable here. I don't get up here a lot. I get up here maybe once or twice a summer at the most. Usually it's for some work related activities like a book or in this film, and so
I read somewhere online this really weird tidbit, and I'm just curious if it's true, because when I read it, I was like, no, this is like a superhero connection. This would explain why you're the superhero of saltwater, which is what I call you. You were born into a saltwater pool. Is that true?
Well, actually, no. There was a study being done at the university where they had a thing like a bathysphere, but it was a vacuum, like the old women's hair dryers. You know those ones at the beauty salon that had those big round hair dryers,
right?
But it went over the stomach of the woman, and then it would pull on the abdominal wall and give the fetus freedom to move.
What?
And for the last trimester, like once every 3 days or 2 days, she would go in, and then this vacuum for an hour or two or whatever, how long it was, and then to allow the fetus freedom to move. And it was supposed to have some sort of effects. I don't know what effects they were, but. And it was supposed to end up being a positive thing, but it's something that was just too expensive to implement because there's so many kids being born, and women can't just be going like every other day to, be vacuumed.
Yeah, be vacuumed. I just had a baby. I have a 1-year-old.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being vacuumed.
Well, pulled on to allow the fetus move because there's so much pressure on the fetus.
Totally.
The fetus can't move. Because people always equate the bathysphere as being born in the tub, which if you know anything about that, that's a pretty radical thing.
Yeah.
I don't suggest it.
I had a baby without drugs, not on purpose.
Yeah.
Because he came too quick. But yeah, like doing it at a home birth in water, that would be terrifying.
It's a little messy.
To say the least.
So for this documentary, how long was the actual filming process? Like, when did you start and end? And I mean, what kind of motivates you to kind of document your life? And I mean, also, was it kind of scary to kind of open up and like reveal to everyone your entire life story?
Well, my original intention in making the film was to really kind of do a movie about, where we've evolved as big wave riders and what we're doing presently. Mm-hmm. And I was fortunate enough to be connected with Rory Kennedy, who is a documentarian and makes some incredible documentaries, but usually they have to do with social issues. And she had a little mixed, a little bit apprehensive about because she didn't want to make a surf film, and I didn't want her to make something she didn't want to make. And then when she kind of looked at my story, she decided that she would like to make the movie about my life story.
Interesting.
And so that's where it changed and became what it is. So it wasn't my intention to make a movie about my life. That was not my original intention. It turned into that. And it's something that I'm, this film is something that I feel is an opportunity to tell my story and hopefully that can have an impact on someone or many people. It's a human story. It's not a surf film, so people are like, oh, I don't want to, I'm not into surfing. It's not a surf movie. It just happens to be that I'm a big wave rider.
Yeah.
But this is a human film. It's about being a human, and so it's for everyone.
Absolutely. I love from when I watched it, it was how much like stock footage of you from over the years, even going back to your mom on the beach and stuff, and your stepfather and all this. And I was like, as we were joking off the air, you're used with cameras always on you, but how'd you uncover and just collect all this footage of yourself? It's just, just your family and friends always just had camera on you?
Actually, Rory's, her group, they that whole side of the film process, they dug into the archives. I mean, I had a library of performance stuff that we had been shooting over the years. Maybe 800 hours or something, but I think there was like 2,000 hours of footage that they made into under 2-hour film. And she was amazed. The fact is that I grew up around surf film photographers. My mom was close with some of the McGilvery and Freeman, who at the time were some of the greatest surf movie builders when I was a kid. So the fact that this footage existed, a lot of it was news to me. I was surprised by a lot of what she found, but her archival research. I mean, they found and they extracted, the amount of footage I think that really kind of helps tell the story, because there's no narration or anything in the film, so it's being told by the footage.
Yeah. Now, I haven't seen the film because we only found out yesterday for sure we were going to get to interview you, and we had to click a link, and I didn't get to click it. But anyway, so I will watch it.
I would go on a big screen.
Yeah,
I mean, the thing about this film, you really want to see it on a big screen.
I was just going to ask
you could go and watch it on a little laptop, but it doesn't do it justice. You want the sound. You want to. I mean, like Rory says, 80-foot waves on 80-foot screens.
Right.
Those are impressive,
and it gives you the power. I'm sure.
Power.
Visually,
and the feeling and the whole thing.
It was amazing. I'm watching this. I'm like, wow. I mean, there's some parts it's very like soothing.
Yeah.
I mean, with the soundtrack and stuff. I mean, I finally hear some punk rock more like towards the end. But for me, it was just like watching this, and as someone who's always respected just that whole culture, it was like, wow, taking this all in. It was just beautifully shot and edited together. So kudos to the director as well.
They did an amazing job.
Yeah,
they did. I mean, like I said, Rory's done some big films in either about her mother Ethel or Vietnam. She's done some pretty. So to get her to actually tell my story, I think I'm fortunate to have that happen.
Now, I do want to make the link between music and surfing, because obviously we're on a rock station. But besides that, I've always felt like there was this very real similarity of music and surfing.
Absolutely.
Even though I've never been a surfer, I feel like they're sort of, I'm about to get real deep, all right?
Yeah, it's all good.
I'm the girl that's been studying Buddhism and all that stuff, but I feel like there are like levels of energy that are in the world, and surfing and music seem to reside on like the highest level, and what it does to your spirit. And so I just want to get your take on how you feel about those being connected, and if they mean that way to you.
Absolutely. I mean, music, and first of all, the rhythms in general, and the rhythm of the ocean, the motion of the ocean, and as a surfer, optimum surfing really is very rhythmic. There's a certain flow to it. There's a movement. People ask me, do you play an instrument? I go, no, I surf. That surfing is an instrument.
Right.
Surfing is an expression of music, and music has incredible impact on surfers. I mean, at least for me, growing up, My mom was into rock and roll and music, and had the old vinyl turntable, and she'd play music all the time. And so I had, I was influenced a lot by music. When I surf, I'm always have, the song of the week or the song of the month or the song of the year in my head I'll listen to a certain song over and over and over until it's just actually plays in my head.
Yeah.
And then when I go surf, I surf to the song.
Yeah.
It's there's an interconnection between music and the ocean, and and the film they have a really great sound director, and some of the stuff is original scores for the film. I mean, they do some pretty unique stuff, and they don't they don't get trapped in trying to just go too mainstream with the music. But yeah, music is I mean, I'm a heavily Jimi Hendrix influence.
Nice.
So I've been Jimmy obviously was when I was a kid, was he was the guy, right? And so then I have and it's interesting to just how powerful music is and how emotional it is.
Yeah, it feels like it's sort of like they're both on a spiritual plane. Now I have to transition, okay, because I've been a fan of yours forever, and then the great love of my life is Eddie Vedder. Like, just put it out.
Here we go.
Besides
here we go
my
again.
son,
Yeah.
I know. Besides my son and my husband, obviously. But when I found out that you guys were connected, because I remember 10 years ago or 12 years ago or something, you did Iconoclast.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, two of my favorite people, they're like besties. I couldn't get over it. So I just have to ask you, with Eddie, like, what is your relationship now? You guys, it was so cute on Iconoclast because you were so connected and you seemed like you had this real bromance, respect, and love for what each other do.
Yeah. Well, we do.
Yeah.
And we're friends. And
That's
we
awesome.
have been for a long time. And I think, and I have that unique, I mean, I've had that kind of, I wouldn't say unique, I've had the fortune to have a connection with certain men. Like you meet a guy and you just kind of have this unspoken friendship that really doesn't have, it's like you don't need time.
Right.
You just connect, and you don't even have to talk about it. You just already, you kind of relate to one another. And I think Eddie and I he's one of the friends that I have that had that kind of connection.
Yeah.
And we might not talk for a while, but we always think about each other in different, we're always thinking about each other, and it's nice to have, I mean, we have a lot of very similar kind of philosophical views of the world, and he loves the ocean, and he's a surfer.
He's a big
and
surfer, yeah.
Yeah, and so again, Eddie's a special person that I have the fortune to be able to bond with.
Tell him I said hi. I had to throw it out there because I love him. Yeah,
he's worthy. He's
so I'm
a good man.
Curious, like, so when you're out there, attempting to get these huge waves, like, what are you thinking about? Chaz and I were talking. Obviously, you can't listen to music in that moment or earbuds, anything, all that stuff. But I mean, is there like a song going through your head, or you're just so like in the zone? Like, I guess just kind of walk us through what's your mindset when you're having like these 30-foot waves coming over you. I'm always just kind of curious because, like, as Chaz and I, we're not surfers.
This is not our world.
But I'm always just really curious. Yeah, what goes on at that moment?
Well, in the most intense part of that act, it's you're and I said this before, but it's there's no beginning and no end, and it just you are. And it is, and you're just part of it. You're part of this. You're part of, you become part of nature at that point, and everything's heightened, right? You're, and you might get it for a second if you stepped on a crosswalk and a car came by you, and for a second you kind of went like that, and just you had that jolt, but that jolt is extended over minutes, and so that kind of hyper focus, hyper aware, kind of more out of body. It's a little bit more like you're participating, and then there's different, if you get hit by a wave and driven down to the bottom of the ocean, then you get a whole new set of
talk about humbling
emotions. Yeah, exactly. You get a whole nother set of things that happen to you. But it's there's a very harmonious relationship that you get with the ocean, and in those moments, and people get it in sports, being in a flow state where they're when everything's happening. at the apex of an intense play. There's a moment there when people do, miraculous things that they're not consciously aware of. It becomes, it's the 10,000 hours where it goes unconscious, that kind of genius, how we describe it as a genius move, and so there's that piece of it where you're in a flow state, you're in a state of unconscious reaction, which is unique in our world. We don't get that often. I think it's something that we had a lot more often when we were cavemen. That was
I mean, I'm just thinking the day-to-day stress you and I have here. I feel like I need to start surfing just to kind of break that rhythm of this crazy cycle we live in, and it just seems very refreshing. And
for sure,
man, that's just good.
Well,
positive
I'm a meditator,
energy.
and it seems to me like you would get something very similar out of meditation and surfing. It's that connection and that spiritual moment with nature, and also humbling to realize how small you are on this planet that we reside on. But when you were talking about that, it sounds almost like a drug. Like you need bigger and bigger. And you are a big wave rider. In fact, you were one of the people who created toe-in, wave surfing. So is it like you're always, how do you stop yourself from always wanting bigger and more and more and bigger and bigger and bigger? I mean, at some point it gets crazy dangerous.
Yeah, well, and that's I think that's part of evolution. That's part of how you evolve. I think that because I do a bunch of different training and I do breath work and which is connected to meditation as well. And what I've done is and I've been conscious to do it in one way, but also I've also been led, and that is that I've been able to kind of change always having to have more and bigger into doing things different.
Okay. That makes sense.
That through difference, I can get to the same place. So it doesn't always have to be bigger and more dangerous. It can just be unique.
Okay.
So so that's why we do different disciplines. That's why we're doing hydrofoil surfing. That's why I'm always looking for new ways to train,
to innovate the same sport,
and also just expose the body to new unique situations that bring you a similar fulfillment and a similar feeling of accomplishment. When you do something you've never done before, you get a feeling of accomplishment. Now, if you're always relying on it to be bigger, then you reduce the chances of that happening, because the chance that you'll get a bigger wave, the chances that I'll ride bigger waves than I've ridden already, they're okay, but they're not great. So then I'm waiting around. So there's a lot of downtime.
Yeah,
and I'm not good with downtime. So I'm looking for ways to get that same experience without always making it.
Sorry, that's my parking meter reminder.
I'm not always, I'm not always looking for it to be more dangerous to get that. I think because I realize that there's a point of diminishing return.
Yeah.
And so at the end, I want to avoid because that would just be, you'd set yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
That you would set yourself up to fail, because if you're always wanting bigger and more and more and more, eventually there's a point where you can't get enough, and that's dopamine.
Yeah,
so that's a dopamine thing, and I'm looking for other serotonin ways to balance it out, because the only thing that suppresses serotonin is dopamine.
Right.
So the dopamine circle just doesn't end.
You're never get enough. You're never going to get enough with drugs or with this kind of sport and drug. Right. Well, you're married to Gabby Reece, for God's sake, so you have like two of the biggest sports people in the world. They've got to have like serious sports genes.
We got some genes for sure. Genes, we have genes. We got extra genes. I have all girls.
Yeah, I know. And one of your daughters is like, what did they call her? You in a dress, I think. Are you?
Yeah. The son I never wanted.
Laird in a skirt. Yeah.
The son I never wanted. But they're all great. I mean, first of all, they're all good in the water. They're all they can swim at any beach and be in any water, and
experience alone must get them there. Yeah,
they're good.
Yeah.
They're good.
Yeah.
But they're, I'm not a little league parent. Gabby and I are not little league parents. They're not like, you got to play volleyball and you got to surf.
Right.
We don't care if they, either. Those are two very difficult sports.
Yeah.
And especially difficult to, make a living from or do anything in. My biggest goal with my daughters is just to try to help them find, as I quote the movie The Jerk, their special purpose.
Yeah.
I want them to find them to find their thing.
Right,
and
exactly.
So,
whatever that is, you support it.
One of them's an artist, and and they play tennis, and the little one likes to ride horses, and the bigger one's into architecture. I mean, so they have all these. They have all these things that they like, and so I'm just about exposure.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna, but they all. I mean, the one that's the most like me, physically the most like me. She likes to go fast. So she likes
fast and hard in here.
Vehicles. So
I love that. She's my kind of girl.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say what I also really respect from you now after seeing your documentary is I feel like over the years you're always pushing yourself to see what's the next step as far as the evolution of surfing, as far as when you did windsurfing, all the stuff that you created. It's cool seeing you in the shop, building all your stuff. Like, first off, like, how'd you become just so great, like, hands-on, just building everything for yourself? You're like an engineer as far as creating all this great technology. And then just as a follow-up, what do you think is, like, the next big thing in surfing? What's the next thing that maybe you're trying to create yourself or put out there that could take surfing to a new level?
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, I grew up at the end of a road, and there wasn't anybody to fix anything. And so we kind of grew up kind of learning how to fix things and learning how to tinker. And, there wasn't a repair guy to fix stuff. You had to do it yourself. And I think that kind of, and then I had my mom was kind of very influential in promoting imagination. So I had the imagination going, and then I had the practical kind of, hands-on, fix things and just, figure it out. Take cars apart and try to put them back together, that kind of stuff, or whatever. And so I think that the imagination and then kind of practical application. What do we say? The most uncommon sense is common sense. But having some common sense and kind of understanding what things mean, and then. And so that's what's led me to innovation. I like that part. I think I enjoy being innovative almost more than I do any other aspect besides the thrill of certain things that these innovations have allowed me to do.
Yeah.
The thing for me and I don't know exactly what the next thing is. I have a couple of ideas. Right now we're really concentrating on the foil.
Okay.
So hydrofoil surfing really is at its infancy, and I've been doing it quite a long time, even though it's just kind of starting to hit somewhat of the mainstream. It's just beginning. So where that's, I'm interested in helping that evolve, work on that. The thing that I probably have had the biggest influence on the world has been with stand-up paddling. So, I did that for 7 or 8 years alone. And now, you can go to Dubai and rent one. So it's been around the planet again. But I have some ideas about being underwater, about doing stuff under the water. And a lot of the innovation stuff I'm starting to take into fitness and health and wellness.
Nice.
So I have a whole line of coffee stuff that I make that is innovative, and so I start to look at life like a formulaic process.
Okay.
And you take the formula for creativity, which is you have an idea and then you evolve the idea until it becomes something. And so I start implementing that into training, into nutrition, into and I have in sport obviously. So that becomes something that's appealing. I like that process, and it's something that makes you feel fulfilled. You got this idea, you write it on a napkin, you concoct it in a cup, you drink it, and you think, well, this is great, and then you give it to other people, and they're like, wow, this is wonderful. And before you know it, people are buying it at a store. You're kind of like, yeah, that's cool. So I like that. I think that's a really that's where I find myself going more and more, that in that direction. I get fulfilled from that. And then that way I don't have to wait for the 100-foot wave. It's like I can get the 100-foot ride, every
in other ways.
Form. Yeah. Which is what you should do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of what we want to do. We want to keep growing and keep evolving, because there's only two things happening. You're either going forward or going back. You're not. There's no staying even.
Right.
So we think, oh, I'm staying even. There's no staying even. You're either going backwards or you're going forwards, and I just want to keep moving the bar forward.
You've always been so inspiring, obviously, in the surfing world, but it's refreshing to hear that you're going to take it into other, areas of your life and all that. We were kind of joking. You're from Paradise. I mean, you said that you're from Hanalei. Yeah. I went to Hanalei, 3 years ago, and I remember thinking, like, I can't imagine what it would be like growing up in this place, because if there was heaven on earth, it is Honolulu Bay. And I guess I paddleboarded by your house whenever you probably saw me eat. Well,
fall in, you mean?
Eat it.
Fall in.
I'll say that.
But it's again. I mean, listen. Hawaii is. I've been all over the world. Hawaii is one of the most amazing places, and all the. Just that archipelago, all those islands. But again, if you watch the film, everything's not always as it seems. So the great things, and I would never change my life at all because if it stopped me from being here in this moment, which it would, so I wouldn't change it. But growing up in Hawaii in paradise, it had a lot more going on than it can be perceived.
I can imagine growing up,
just with being a white person in a place that Captain Cook destroyed.
Absolutely,
so
no kidding.
You always have that little factor
lingering around,
at the end of the day, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
But for me, I just feel like everything comes with a cost. Everything comes with a price.
Right.
And sometimes you don't get to choose whether you pay or not. You just pay.
Right.
But you don't realize maybe the rewards that you'll reap from that until later on. And so but during the payment, it sometimes can be a little stiff. You're kind of like, what am I getting out of this? This seems like I'm not getting a lot out of this. And later on, you're like, wow, I got a lot out of that.
Yeah, I grew up in southern Oklahoma, nowhere near Hawaii. We'll just put it that way. Growing up in a place like that, do you find it hard to appreciate it still, or do you just bask in the glory that is that place?
No, I go. Well, you travel.
Yeah.
You go out in the world.
Yeah.
And you check out the planet.
And you see how good it is.
You check out the planet, and then you run back, and you're like, wow, this is a really special place. Like,
exactly.
You do. You do.
I mean,
I think traveling's very healthy. They say something like only less than 12% of Americans have a passport. So that means that, less than 10% travel out of the country. And I mean, listen, I went to Afghanistan when I was 11 years old. My 11th birthday was in Afghanistan. So I've had some, situations, and I've traveled enough to see the world and be like, hey, America, this is a good place.
Yeah, this is a place I want to be.
Like Hawaii, these are nice places. Like this is food. This is infrastructure. This is hospital. These are things that work. It's
I've done the Cambodias safety, and India and Morocco. I feel you. You come home and you're like, wow, I got it good.
Yeah.
Hey, no matter how bad it is, you got it good.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And then once you sit here long enough and you don't know what's going on there, you complain about somebody parking in the wrong spot.
Exactly. Or me getting a parking ticket every week.
But also, I mean, for you seem to accomplish everything. I'm just curious, what was like maybe your biggest career highlight for yourself? And then is there anything you still want to go out there and try to accomplish?
Well, first of all, I'm trying to survive parenting.
Yeah.
So right now,
amen.
Right now, parenting, I'm failing miserably.
How old are your kids?
I have a 9, a 14, and a 22-year-old.
And all girls.
Oh yeah,
Bless
it's the way
your
I roll.
heart. Bless your heart.
It's the way I roll. It's the way I roll.
You are severely outnumbered.
Beyond outnumbered. But what's interesting is, and I think that and I don't know if I've consciously done it, but I have a tendency to, have a goal and then have it move, and then so I'm always striving, and it's sometimes like, and it's kind of bad. I think Gabby's reminded me before, like, hey, maybe you should kind of, like, for example, this film, like, hey, celebrate this film, like there's only one of these.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Yeah. Kind of enjoy it. Enjoy the process of it.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be done. And then when you're done with it, there's not going to be another one of these.
Right.
There might be another one of something else. Mm-hmm. But, and I think I have to remind myself of that. I mean, obviously I have some career highlights, in my surfing. Some of them are publicly known, whether it's Tahiti, the 2000 Millennium Wave, for example, was a real defining thing. Cover of National Geographic. I mean, I have some career highlights and then I have some career highlights that are just my own that no one knows about. There's a story about when in the film where a friend of mine gets hurt, and but on that day, I rode waves that were excess of 100 feet, and that's kind of unbeknownst to the surf world. We had no photographs. And so it was which is kind of cool. I kind of like that because, if you rode a 100-foot wave right now, you'd run around and it'd be plastered everywhere and everybody'd have something to say about it. And it would be like this thing that sometimes in a way almost undermines the memory.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's like the tribal people believing that every time you take a picture,
It
you
loses.
get a little
Right.
bit of your soul.
Right.
You know, it's like sometimes you lose something from it when we just extract all this electronical imagery and all this, because it's all energy. We take this energy from it, and sometimes it almost it almost undermined it, even though you're glad you've captured it and you have some evidence. But I have evidence of the Giant Day with some friends. So, you know, and again, I want the elusive goal. I don't want my whole goal to be to win a gold medal and then I win it, and then everything else after that is all downhill.
Then you have the post-gold medal like depression thing.
Absolutely, and I get post-traumatic. You know, when the surf gets big.
Right.
But the fact is that, you know, I never want to. You know, there's a famous the anonymous stuntman. I always quote him that said, you know, never let your memories be bigger than your dreams. And so, you know, it's like I mean, I have memories and they're good and everything, but I'm looking ahead and I'm looking to do the next thing. And you know, I was fortunate to. I was in Peru twice this summer, and I rode some waves for 2.5 miles, which was for 6.5 minutes.
Wow.
Which at the time was more than double, almost triple anything that I've ever ridden lengthwise and time wise. So that was, and you know, and so at this point in my evolution of a surfer, I'm able to do something I never done. Okay. So again, that was a highlight. Like I'm like anytime you do something you haven't done, highlight.
Yeah, check.
Highlight.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, also just like the fact that when you say like some of the stuff's not documented, it just kind of creates the whole legend. Legend has it.
Totally.
He did this and that.
You're right.
I don't know. I think that's cool.
I think
But
you
I
get
like
to
it.
keep
I
that.
like to memory. You know, I think we undervalue what it is to store it in your memory.
Yeah.
That we have it
And in your heart. You know,
in your heart.
you own
in
it.
your heart,
That's
it's
your
yours.
memory alone.
It's yours, and not
No one
and
can
not to be
taint it.
critiqued.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to be, you know, not to be judged, not to be nothing. You have it.
That was your moment to yourself.
I was just going to say real quick, since Chas brought up Eddie Vedder, bring up my favorite band, Green Day. Billy Joe Armstrong, at times on stage, he says, put your phones down, just be in the moment.
Yeah.
He says, YouTube cannot own everything. So I just think about that. Just be in the moment and enjoy it.
Well, they say actually that if you go, they use this a wedding as an example, but if you go to a wedding and you take a photograph at a wedding or you shoot video with your phone, that it impedes your memory of the wedding, and that later on you won't even be able to remember the wedding because of that, because of it does something to your brain that stops you from having the memory be like in a flow,
like a fluid moment. Yeah,
like in a complete thing.
Yeah, at concerts I feel that way because I remember back what I was looking at through my screen and not being in that moment, you know. And I'm totally with you. I know you don't have forever. We could literally talk to you for hours. Laird, you are amazing. Thank you so much for coming in. I can't wait to see the documentary. I'm super jealous. You've already seen it, but I will be able to watch it too.
So we encourage everyone to go see Take Every Wave, The Life of Laird Hamilton. For all the info, screenings here in the Bay Area, wherever you're at right now, if you're listening to this, just go to takeeverywave.com. So tonight here in the Bay Area specifically, Friday, October 13th, you're going to be at the Embarcadero Center Cinema in San Francisco, 7 o'clock screening. Tomorrow you're going to be in Berkeley at the Shattuck Cinema, 4 p.m. for a Q&A there as well. And then you're doing the intro back at the Embarcadero.
It's not a surf movie, by the way.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying, we just had a lady send in a letter about seeing the movie, and she said, well, my husband brought me to this movie, and it's like, I didn't want to see a surf movie. And then she said, I cried during it and blah, blah, blah. And because it's not a surf movie. So don't
think if you're not into surfing.
It's a documentary about a human.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely. But then all your friends and stuff and family. No, it's awesome.
The kids
I love
it too.
Yeah, it's really good. So like I said, go to takeeverywave.com, get all the info there. Of course, check out your website, lairdhamilton.com. Follow them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Listen.
Laird Superfood, Buy that coffee.
Yeah, I know.
So
I can't wait to get my hands on the
quick
coffee.
side note. So we got to walk in on a conversation with our sister station, KMBR, but the coffee thing, so that's a whole new world.
I have a line of superfood products.
Okay.
And so LairdSuperfood.com has a lot of the products that I do, and I have some incredible nutrient dense creamers for your coffee, and then really good beans and a mushroom blend with
Laird Superfoods.
LairdSuperfood.com. Yeah.
Go on there right now. I'm a health nut.
Incredible stuff. No,
I'm the psycho about
incredible stuff. And change your whole coffee world. I have cacao, turmeric creamers, I have a hydrate product that's incredible.
I'm going to be ordering right now.
She keeps me in check.
I do. I'm the health nut around here.
I'll give you the discount code.
Yes! I love it.
But listen, thank you so much for making time.
Thank you.
It's really an honor to talk to you in person, and we encourage everyone to go see your new documentary.
Thank you.
Good luck with everything else.
Absolutely.
And looking forward next time you come back here in the Bay Area.
Aloha.
You're home away from home.
Aloha, yes. I'll paddleboard by your house next time.
Okay.
Cool.
Aloha. Bye.